She was the most evil landlady in the entire city. She threw out pregnant women, sick elderly people, and even orphaned children without mercy. Everyone feared her. No one could stop her. But then, she made one mistake. She tried to evict the wrong person. What happened next brought her to her knees. Stay with me as I share this powerful story of karma, justice, and redemption. In the busy city of Lagos, there lived a woman named Mrs. Adanna Okafor. She was 52 years old, wealthy, and owned 15 apartment buildings across the city. But Mrs. Adanna was not known for her wealth. She was known for her cruelty. People called her the Iron Landlady. Some called her the Heartless One. Children ran when they saw her coming. Adults whispered prayers when her name was mentioned. Mrs. Adanna had one rule: pay on time or get out. I don't care about your problems. And she meant it. She had thrown out a pregnant woman who was 2 days late on rent. The woman begged, "Please, Mrs. Adanna, I will have the money tomorrow. My husband's salary is delayed." Mrs. Adanna's response was cold. "Tomorrow is not today. Out. Now." The woman gave birth on the street that night. Mrs. Adanna had evicted an elderly man who had lived in her building for 20 years. He was sick with cancer and couldn't work. "Please," he begged, tears streaming down his face. "I have nowhere to go. Just give me 1 more month." Mrs. Adanna laughed. A cruel laugh. 1 month? So you can die in my property and bring me bad luck. Out. The old man died in a shelter 2 weeks later. She had thrown out a young widow with 3 children. The woman's husband had just died in an accident. She needed time to receive his benefits. "Your husband's death is not my problem," Mrs. Adanna said. "This is business, not charity." The children cried. The widow begged. But Mrs. Adanna didn't care. Everyone who knew her wondered, how can someone be so heartless? Doesn't she fear God? But Mrs. Adanna feared nothing. She believed money was power. And power meant she could do whatever she wanted. She drove a big black Mercedes. She wore expensive clothes and gold jewelry. She ate in the finest restaurants while her tenants struggled to eat once a day. "I worked hard for my money," she would say. "If they want comfort, let them work hard too." But what Mrs. Adanna didn't know was that karma was preparing something special for her. Something that would break her proud spirit and teach her a lesson she would never forget. In one of Mrs. Adanna's oldest buildings, on the top floor of a 5-story apartment, lived a young woman named Sister Grace. Sister Grace was 28 years old. She was a nurse at the city hospital. But more than that, she was a woman of deep faith and incredible kindness. Sister Grace always wore modest, simple clothes. She covered her head with a scarf, as was her custom. Only her gentle face was visible, and in that face, you could see pure goodness. She lived in a small 1-room apartment. It was old, with peeling paint and a leaking roof. But Sister Grace kept it spotlessly clean. She made it feel like home. Every morning, Sister Grace woke up at 4 a.m. to pray. Then she would go to work at the hospital, often taking extra shifts to help cover her rent and to send money to the orphanage where she grew up. Sister Grace was loved by everyone in the building. When someone was sick, she nursed them for free. When someone was hungry, she shared her food. When someone was sad, she sat with them and prayed. "Sister Grace is an angel," people would say. "God sent her to us." But Sister Grace had one big problem: money. As a nurse, her salary was small, and Mrs. Adanna's rent was high, very high. Sometimes, Sister Grace had to choose between eating or paying rent on time. She always paid rent, even if it meant going hungry for days. For 3 years, Sister Grace had been a perfect tenant. Never late, never complaining, always respectful. But then, something happened that changed everything. The hospital where Sister Grace worked had not paid salaries for 2 months. The government had budget problems. The nurses were told, "Be patient. The money will come." Sister Grace had savings, but she had used them to pay for a little boy's surgery. The boy's parents were too poor. He would have died without the operation. Now rent was due in 3 days, and Sister Grace had nothing. She prayed harder than ever. "God, Please make a way. I have always tried to do good. Please don't let me be thrown out on the street. But God's answer would come in a way Sister Grace never expected. It was the first day of the month.
Rent day.
Mrs. Adanna arrived at the building in her big Mercedes. She was wearing an expensive purple dress and her signature gold necklaces. Her driver opened the door for her. She walked into the building with her assistant, Mr. Chitty, who carried a clipboard and followed her like a scared puppy. Mrs. Adanna went door to door, collecting rent. Those who paid, she gave a receipt. Those who didn't have money, she gave a warning. You have until sunset. If the money is not in my hand by then, you will sleep on the street tonight. No excuses. People scrambled, borrowing from neighbors, selling belongings, doing anything to get the money. Then Mrs. Adanna reached Sister Grace's door on the top floor. She knocked hard.
Bang, bang, bang.
Sister Grace opened the door. She looked tired. She had worked a double shift the night before. Good morning, Mrs. Adanna. Sister Grace greeted respectfully, her voice soft and gentle. Mrs. Adanna didn't return the greeting.
Rent. Now.
Sister Grace's heart sank. Mrs. Adanna, please, may I speak with you? There is nothing to speak about. Rent or keys. Choose. Sister Grace took a deep breath. Mrs. Adanna, the hospital has not paid us for 2 months. I have always paid you on time for 3 years. I promise, the moment I receive my salary, you will have your money. Please, just give me 2 weeks. Mrs. Adanna's face twisted with disgust. 2 weeks? Do I look like a charity organization to you? Please, Mrs. Adanna. I have nowhere else to go. That is not my problem. Mrs. Adanna's voice was loud now. Other tenants opened their doors to see what was happening. Sister Grace remained calm. I understand this is business, Mrs. Adanna, but I am asking for mercy. Just this once. Mercy? Mrs. Adanna laughed. That same cruel laugh. Let me tell you something, girl.
Mercy is for the weak.
I didn't become successful by being soft. You have until 6 p.m. today. If you don't have my money, you pack your things and leave. Sister Grace felt tears coming, but she held them back. Mrs. Adanna, I will pray for you. Pray for yourself. Mrs. Adanna turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the floor. The neighbors came out to comfort Sister Grace.
Don't worry, they said.
We will help you. We will collect money among ourselves. But Sister Grace shook her head. You all have your own struggles. I cannot take from you.
God will make a way.
She went back into her room, knelt down, and prayed. God, I don't understand why this is happening, but I trust you. Please show me what to do. As she prayed, something strange began to happen. Something that would change everything. That afternoon, around 3 p.m., a car pulled up in front of the building. But this was not just any car. It was a sleek black Range Rover, even more expensive than Mrs. Adanna's Mercedes. A tall, distinguished man stepped out. He was about 55 years old, wearing an expensive gray suit. He had the bearing of someone very important. Behind him, 2 other men in suits followed. They looked like bodyguards or assistants. The man walked into the building and began asking questions. Excuse me, does a young woman named Grace Obi live here? The tenants were confused. Who is this rich man looking for Sister Grace? Yes, she lives on the top floor, someone answered. The man thanked them and climbed the stairs. His assistants followed. When he reached Sister Grace's door, he knocked gently. Sister Grace opened the door. Her eyes were red from crying and praying. When she saw the well-dressed stranger, she was confused. Can I help you, sir? The man's stern face suddenly broke into a warm smile. His eyes filled with tears. Grace? Grace Obi? Is it really you? Sister Grace stared at him. Something about his face seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. Yes, I am Grace Obi. Do I know you, sir? The man's voice broke with emotion. Grace, it's me. Dr. Emmanuel Okonkwo. Do you remember? 20 years ago, at St. Mary's Orphanage. Sister Grace's eyes widened. Her hand flew to her mouth. Emmanuel? Little Emmanuel? Not so little anymore, he laughed, tears now streaming down his face. Sister Grace couldn't believe it. Emmanuel had been like a big brother to her at the orphanage. He was 5 years older. When she was 8 and he was 13, he had protected her from bullies. He had shared his food with her. He had promised her, "One day, when I become successful, I will come back and help you." Then he was adopted by a rich family and taken to America. She never saw him again. "But how? How did you find me?" Sister Grace asked, tears flowing freely now. Dr. Emmanuel smiled. "I have been searching for you for 5 years. I hired investigators. Last week, they finally found you. Grace, I'm a doctor now. A surgeon. I have my own hospital in America. And I never forgot my promise to you." Sister Grace was overwhelmed. "You came all this way to find me?" "Of course. You were family to me. The only family I had before I was adopted. I had to find you." They hugged, both crying, while curious neighbors gathered in the hallway watching this emotional reunion. Dr. Emmanuel pulled back and looked at Sister Grace's small, run-down apartment. His face became serious. "Grace, why are you living like this? You're a nurse, I heard. You should have better." Sister Grace wiped her tears. "I'm grateful for what I have, Emmanuel. God has been faithful. But you deserve more. Listen, I want to help you. I want to." Suddenly, they heard loud footsteps on the stairs. Angry footsteps. Mrs. Adanna had returned. Mrs. Adanna reached the top floor and saw the crowd gathered outside Sister Grace's door. "What is this? A party? Did you all forget it's rent day?" she shouted. The crowd parted. Mrs. Adanna saw Sister Grace standing with a tall, well-dressed man and his assistants. Mrs. Adanna's eyes narrowed.
Who are you?
"And what are you doing in my building?" Dr. Emmanuel turned to face her. He sized her up immediately. He had dealt with many arrogant, wealthy people in his life. He recognized the type. "I'm Dr. Emmanuel Okonkwo," he said calmly. "I'm here visiting my sister, Grace." "Sister?" Mrs. Adanna looked at Sister Grace suspiciously. "You never mentioned having a brother. Is this some trick to avoid paying rent?" Sister Grace spoke softly. "Mrs. Adanna, Emmanuel and I grew up together in the orphanage. I don't care about your sad story." Mrs. Adanna interrupted. "It's past 6 p.m. Where is my rent money?" Dr. Emmanuel's jaw tightened. "Excuse me, are you telling me you're trying to evict this woman?" "This is my building. I can evict anyone I want. She hasn't paid her rent because the hospital hasn't paid the nurses their salaries for 2 months, Dr. Emmanuel said, his voice still calm, but with an edge now. "Surely you can show some compassion and give her a few more days." Mrs. Adanna laughed. "Compassion? Let me tell you something, Mr. Doctor. This is business. If I let one person slide, everyone will want special treatment. Rules are rules." Dr. Emmanuel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a wallet. He took out several bills and counted them. "How much is the rent?" 12,000 naira, Mrs. Adanna said with a greedy smile. Dr. Emmanuel pulled out 15,000 naira and handed it to her.
"Here."
"This month's rent, plus 3,000 extra." Mrs. Adanna snatched the money and counted it. Her eyes gleamed. This doctor was rich. She could see opportunities here. "Thank you," she said, her tone suddenly sweet. "You see? That wasn't so hard. If only your sister here had rich relatives to help her, we wouldn't have had this problem." Dr. Emmanuel's eyes turned cold. "Lady, let me be very clear about something. I paid this rent because Grace is important to me. But from what I've seen and heard in the last 10 minutes, you are a cruel, heartless woman. How do you sleep at night knowing you throw out sick people, pregnant women, and children?" Mrs. Adanna's fake smile disappeared. "Watch your mouth, doctor. I am a respectable businesswoman. I have rights." "Rights?" Dr. Emmanuel's voice rose slightly. "You have rights, but what about responsibilities? What about basic human decency?" Mrs. Adanna pointed her finger at him. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. I built my business from nothing. Nobody helped me. Nobody showed me mercy. So, why should I show mercy to others?" Because hurt people don't have to hurt people, Dr. Emmanuel said quietly. Breaking the cycle of pain is what separates good people from evil ones. Mrs. Adanna's face turned red with rage. She wasn't used to anyone speaking to her this way. Get out of my building. Both of you. I don't care about your money anymore. I want you out. Sister Grace touched Dr. Emmanuel's arm gently. It's okay, Emmanuel. Let's not make this worse. But Dr. Emmanuel wasn't done. He looked at Mrs. Adanna and said something that made her blood run cold. You know what?
Fine.
Grace won't stay in this dump anymore. But let me tell you something, Mrs. Adanna Okafor. Karma is real. And what you've been doing to people, it will come back to you. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But it's coming. And when it does, you'll remember this moment. Mrs. Adanna laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. Are you threatening me?
No.
I'm promising you. You'll see. Dr. Emmanuel turned to Sister Grace. Pack your things. You're coming with me. I have a hotel suite. Tomorrow, we'll find you a proper place to live. Sister Grace looked at her little apartment. It wasn't much, but it had been home. But the other tenants, I can't just leave them with her. Dr. Emmanuel smiled. Don't worry about them. Just trust me. As Sister Grace packed her few belongings, Dr. Emmanuel made a phone call. He spoke in English, quickly and quietly. The neighbors couldn't hear what he was saying, but they saw the determined look on his face. Mrs. Adanna stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching with a mixture of anger and unease. Something about that doctor's words had shaken her. Karma is coming. She shook her head. Nonsense. I don't believe in karma. I believe in money and power. And I have both. But deep inside, a small seed of fear had been planted. The next morning, something strange happened at all of Mrs. Adanna's 15 buildings. Government officials arrived. City inspectors, tax auditors, police officers, fire safety experts, all at the same time. They started inspecting every building with fine-tooth combs. Mrs. Adanna was at her main office when her phone started ringing nonstop. Mrs. Adanna, the city inspectors are here. They're saying our building doesn't meet safety codes. Mrs. Adanna, the tax office is demanding to see receipts for the last 10 years. Mrs. Adanna, the police are here with questions about illegal evictions. Mrs. Adanna's head was spinning. What was happening? How were all these different departments suddenly interested in her properties at the same time? She rushed to her nearest building. There, she found inspectors taking photos, writing reports, interviewing tenants. What's going on here? She demanded. A senior inspector, a serious-looking man with glasses, turned to her. Mrs. Okafor, we need to speak with you. We've received multiple complaints about your properties. Complaints? From who? That's confidential. But we're conducting a full investigation into your business practices. Mrs. Adanna felt panic rising. She had cut many corners over the years to maximize profits. She had bribed some officials, ignored safety regulations, and kept 2 sets of books for taxes. If they dug deep enough, they would find everything. This is harassment, she shouted. I know my rights. I will call my lawyers. Please do, the inspector said calmly. In fact, you'll need them. Because from what we've found in just 2 hours, you're facing some serious violations. That evening, Mrs. Adanna sat in her big house, something she never did. Usually, she was out collecting rent, managing properties, making money. But today, she was scared. Her lawyer had called. Adanna, this is bad. Very bad. They've frozen your bank accounts, pending the tax investigation. They've issued citations for safety violations at 12 of your 15 buildings. You're looking at massive fines, possibly even jail time. Jail? For what? For illegal evictions, for one. Apparently, some of the people you threw out have filed complaints, including the family of that old man who died. They're claiming you contributed to his death by evicting him while he was terminally ill. Mrs. Adanna felt the room spinning. How is this happening? Everything was fine yesterday. Her lawyer was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Adanna, someone powerful is behind this. Someone with connections pulled strings to make all these departments move at once. Did you make an enemy recently? Someone with resources? Mrs. Adanna's mind flashed to the doctor. Dr. Emmanuel Okonkwo. No, she whispered. It can't be. But in her heart, she knew it was. Over the next week, Mrs. Adanna's empire crumbled. 3 of her buildings were condemned and closed until major repairs were made. The repair costs were estimated at over 5 million naira. The tax office assessed her for back taxes, penalties, and interest totaling 8 million naira. Families she had wrongfully evicted filed lawsuits. 12 cases in total. Her lawyers told her she would likely lose most of them. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her Mercedes was seized as part of the tax investigation. For the first time in 20 years, Mrs. Adanna felt what her tenants had felt.
Fear.
Helplessness. The terror of losing everything. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. She paced her house at night, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. One evening, there was a knock on her door. She opened it carefully. Standing there was Dr. Emmanuel, dressed simply in jeans and a shirt. Mrs. Adanna's face hardened. You did this to me. Dr. Emmanuel didn't deny it. I made some calls to friends in various departments. I simply asked them to do their jobs properly and investigate your businesses. What they found, Mrs. Adanna, that was all you. You've destroyed me.
No.
You destroyed yourself. I just held up a mirror. Mrs. Adanna felt rage boiling inside her. What do you want? To gloat? To see me suffer? Actually, I came to make you an offer. Mrs. Adanna's eyes narrowed. What kind of offer? A chance at redemption. But first, you need to come with me. There's someone you need to see. Dr. Emmanuel drove Mrs. Adanna to the city hospital. She was confused and angry, but also curious. He led her through the corridors to the children's ward. There, in a room full of sick children, was Sister Grace, still in her nurse uniform, gently feeding a little girl who had cancer. When Sister Grace saw Mrs. Adanna, she smiled. A genuine, warm smile. No anger. No hatred. Just kindness. Mrs. Adanna, I'm glad you came. Mrs. Adanna didn't know what to say. She felt ashamed standing in front of this woman she had tried to throw out on the street. Dr. Emmanuel spoke. Mrs. Adanna, I want you to see what Grace does here. Every day, after her shifts, she stays for hours volunteering with sick children. She uses her own money to buy them small gifts, treats, anything to make them smile. This is who you tried to evict. Mrs. Adanna watched as Sister Grace moved from bed to bed, caring for children that society had forgotten. Poor children. Children whose parents couldn't afford treatment. And Sister Grace loved them all. Something cracked inside Mrs. Adanna's hardened heart. Dr. Emmanuel continued. Do you see that little boy there? His name is Chinedu. His parents couldn't afford his surgery. He was going to die. Grace used her savings, money she needed for rent, to pay for his operation. That's why she couldn't pay you. Mrs. Adanna felt tears stinging her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time she had cried. Why are you showing me this? She whispered. Because I want you to understand something. You have spent years accumulating wealth by stepping on people. Grace has spent years accumulating treasures in heaven by lifting people up. Your wealth is crumbling. Her reward is eternal. Who is really rich? Mrs. Adanna sank into a chair. She covered her face with her hands and finally, the dam broke.
She sobbed.
Years of hardness, bitterness, and pain came pouring out. Sister Grace came and knelt beside her. She took Mrs. Adanna's hands gently. Mrs. Adanna, what happened to you? What made you so hard? Through her tears, Mrs. Adanna began to speak. For the first time in decades, she told her story. I wasn't always like this, Mrs. Adanna began, her voice shaking. When I was young, I was kind. I trusted people. I helped anyone who asked. I was married once. My husband and I built our first apartment building together. We were happy. We were going to help people, provide affordable housing for families. But then my husband got sick. Cancer. The medical bills were huge. I sold everything we had to pay for his treatment. Everything except one small building. I begged our friends for help. People we had helped before. They all turned their backs. Sorry, Adanna. We have our own problems. I went to banks for loans. They rejected me.
Too risky, they said.
I watched my husband die slowly, in pain, because we couldn't afford the best treatment. And in his final days, he looked at me with such disappointment. As if I had failed him. When he died, I had nothing. I was living in that one small building with 5 tenants. They knew I was grieving. They knew I was broke. And you know what they did? They all refused to pay rent. You're going through a hard time, Adanna. You understand, right? Within 3 months, I was going to lose even that building. The bank was going to take it. That's when I changed. I said, never again. Never again will I let anyone take advantage of my kindness. Never again will I be weak. I became hard. I forced those tenants out. I raised rents. I saved every penny. I built my empire back, building by building. But I built it on one principle. Business is business. No emotions. No mercy. Sister Grace squeezed Mrs. Adanna's hands gently. Mrs. Adanna, I'm so sorry you went through that pain. But don't you see? You became the very thing that hurt you. You became the people who refused to help you when you needed it most. Mrs. Adanna nodded, tears streaming. I know, but I didn't know how to stop. The hardness became armor. If I let it down, I thought I'd break again. Dr. Emmanuel spoke softly. Mrs. Adanna, it's not too late to change. You can start over, but you have to choose. Stay on this path and lose everything, your money, your properties, and most importantly, your soul. Or choose a different path. What path? Mrs. Adanna asked, her voice small like a child's. The path of redemption. Over the next 3 months, Mrs. Adanna's life transformed completely. With Dr. Emmanuel's help, she made a deal with the government. She would pay all back taxes and fines, make all necessary repairs to her buildings, compensate the families she had wronged, attend counseling to deal with her past trauma, establish a charitable foundation for tenants facing hardship. In exchange, she would avoid jail time and keep her properties, though she would be monitored. But something more important happened. Mrs. Adanna's heart began to change. She started spending time with Sister Grace, learning from her. She visited the hospital, met the children, and began to understand what real wealth meant. She went to each family she had evicted and personally apologized. Some forgave her immediately. Others needed time. She understood. The widow with 3 children? Mrs. Adanna gave her an apartment rent-free for a year and helped her get job training. The family of the old man, who died? She set up a scholarship fund in his name to help elderly people pay rent. The pregnant woman who gave birth on the street? Mrs. Adanna found her and not only apologized, but helped her start a small business. She established the New Beginnings Foundation, funded with a portion of her property's income. It helped tenants facing genuine hardship pay rent without fear of eviction. She reduced rents to fair, affordable rates. Many tenants couldn't believe it. Is this really Mrs. Adanna? They whispered. What happened to her? What happened was simple. She had met her match. Not in power or wealth, but in goodness. Sister Grace's pure heart had exposed the emptiness of Mrs. Adanna's cold one. And she had learned that karma is real. She had been brought low so she could be built back up the right way. 6 months after that first confrontation, there was a ceremony. Dr. Emmanuel had decided to build a free medical clinic in Lagos for poor families. He asked Sister Grace to manage it. At the opening ceremony, Mrs. Adanna was there. She had donated one of her buildings to house the clinic. As Sister Grace cut the ribbon, Mrs. Adanna stood beside her, tears in her eyes. But these were tears of joy, not bitterness. A reporter asked her, Mrs. Okafor, people say you've changed completely. What happened? Mrs. Adanna smiled. A real smile. I met my match. I thought I was powerful because I had money and could control people through fear. But I met someone more powerful, someone whose power came from love. And love will always defeat fear. She looked at Sister Grace. This woman taught me that the richest person is not the one who is the most, but the one who gives the most. I spent years accumulating buildings. She spent years building people. I was the poor one all along. Sister Grace hugged Mrs. Adanna. You found your way back. That's what matters. Later that day, Mrs. Adanna returned to her buildings. But now, when she visited, children ran toward her, not away. Adults smiled and greeted her warmly. She had finally become the landlady she should have been all along. Fair, firm when necessary, but compassionate. One evening, she sat with Sister Grace having tea. Sister Grace, do you know what the greatest irony is?
What?
I spent 20 years stepping on people to build my wealth, and I nearly lost everything. Now that I'm helping people instead of hurting them, my buildings are more profitable than ever. Happy tenants actually pay their rent on time and take care of the properties. Who knew? She laughed. Sister Grace smiled. God knew. He has a sense of humor. Mrs. Adanna nodded.
He does.
He sent me an angel disguised as a poor tenant, and a warrior disguised as a doctor. Together, you saved my life. No, Dr. Emmanuel said, joining them with his own cup of tea. You saved yourself. We just held up a mirror. You chose to look into it and change what you saw. As the sun set over Lagos, Mrs. Adanna reflected on her journey. She thought about the evil landlady she had been, cruel, heartless, feared by all. She thought about the woman she was becoming, still strong, still a businesswoman, but now with compassion guiding her decisions. She had learned that karma is indeed real. What you put out into the world comes back to you, multiplied. She had learned that true power doesn't come from making people fear you, but from earning their respect. She had learned that the armor of hardness she built to protect herself had actually been a prison. Most importantly, she learned that it's never too late to change. Never too late to say sorry. Never too late to choose a better path. As she walked through her building that evening, a little girl ran up to her with a drawing. Mrs. Adanna, I drew this for you. It was a picture of Mrs. Adanna with angel wings. Mrs. Adanna's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sweetheart. This is beautiful. The little girl hugged her legs and ran off to play. Mrs. Adanna held the picture close to her heart. 6 months ago, children had run from her in fear. Now they gave her pictures with angel wings. That was redemption. That was grace. That was what happened when the evil landlady finally met her match. 1. Karma is real. What you put into the world, good or evil, will come back to you. Mrs. Adanna spent years causing pain, and that pain came back to destroy her empire. 2. Hurt people, but it doesn't have to be that way. Mrs. Adanna's cruelty came from her own pain. But we have a choice. We can either pass on our pain or break the cycle. 3. True power comes from love, not fear. Mrs. Adanna thought making people fear her was power. But Sister Grace's love was far more powerful. It changed hearts. 4. Money without compassion is poverty. Mrs. Adanna was rich in money, but poor in spirit. Sister Grace had little money, but was truly wealthy. 5. It's never too late to change. No matter how far you've fallen, no matter how much wrong you've done, you can always choose a better path. 6. Sometimes you need to lose everything to find what really matters. Mrs. Adanna had to lose her empire to find her soul. 7. The strongest people are the kindest. Sister Grace's gentleness was her strength. It broke through walls that threats never could. 8. What you do to others, you do to yourself. When you hurt others, you damage your own soul. When you help others, you heal yourself. Speech balloon. Which moment in this story touched your heart the most? Outbox Strays, share with someone who needs to hear this message. Thumbs up like if you believe people can change. Bell subscribe for more powerful stories every week. Thank you for watching. Remember, be the reason someone believes in goodness. Be the match that lights someone's path out of darkness. God bless you. Folded hands. Kofi.